Hey gang, Tim Forshey here again. Hey, just a weird question. How many of you have the good old Miranda warning literally memorized? Raise your hands. Almost all of you, right? Well, that's what 71 years of constant replays of Law and Order will do on the human brain. As they always used to say, this is your brain on Law and Order. How many of you know about the tragic and unjust, horrifying story of poor Ernesto Miranda? He was singled out as a scapegoat by Phoenix police officers in 1963. He was forced into a confession with absolutely no warning of his legal rights, and he was unjustly convicted, right? That seems to be what most people think happened, but it turns out that's completely wrong. He was a real flea-bitten career criminal whose first felony conviction occurred when he was in 8th grade. Let's see, he spent time in jails and prisons in Arizona, Tennessee, Texas, California, and even Ohio before he was eventually arrested for kidnapping and rape in Phoenix, Arizona in 1963. He was personally identified by his vehicle, his vehicle's license plate, his image, and his voice. He signed a complete written confession after he himself identified the victim and she identified him in turn. On each page of the Phoenix Police Department stationery where he hand wrote his own confession, in writing, he was advised that the confession that he was giving was completely voluntary, was not in any way coerced. It was done with full knowledge of his legal rights, and it was done with full knowledge of the fact that anything that he said in the confession would and could be used against him in a court of law. His rape and kidnapping convictions and his 30-year sentence was eventually overturned by the Supremes in 1966. And of course, that's the case that gives us the very famous term, the Miranda warnings. One of the very few Supreme Court hearings, by the way, that lasted over multiple days. Usually they last just a few hours, if that. The Supremes decided that the Phoenix Police Department's failure to advise Miranda that he had a right to have an attorney present during his questioning was actually a violation of his constitutional rights. So, of course, the case was remanded. Well, the state of Arizona doesn't give up easily. So they went ahead and they retried him again without the confession this time. And lo and behold, they secured another conviction again for a 30-year prison term. Surprisingly, he was actually paroled and released from prison in 1972, but shortly after that, he violated his parole, predictably, by being arrested while in possession of a firearm. So back to the Arizona Department of Corrections he goes. Soon after that, he was released again in 1976, and he was shortly after that stabbed to death in a bar fight in Phoenix. The right to have an attorney present during your questioning is a vital right, and I'm certainly glad the Supreme Court has secured that right for all of us once and for all. But man, wouldn't it be nice if we weren't paying homage to such a piece of crap every time that word was said, Miranda? Anyway, you know how to be absolutely certain that what you say cannot be used against you in a court of law? Very simple. Don't say nothing. As we've covered here before, I think the best statement is what I tend to call the Ayub statement. It was first taught to me by my mentor, Masad Ayub. And it goes something like this. I was in fear for my life and I was in fear for the lives of my family members. I will cooperate in the guy's prosecution. Please be aware that there's evidence or witnesses over here or over there that you might overlook otherwise. Once we've got that squared away, please be advised that I will be more than happy to cooperate and give a full and complete statement once I have a chance to speak to my attorney. May I please call my attorney? That is just about perfect. I think that's a statement that should be etched in stone somewhere. It's just about perfect. Here's my problem with that. You are most likely completely freaking out due to emotional and adrenal overload, and you may very well be unable to stop speaking once you start speaking. I've seen it as recently as yesterday when I spoke to a new client who had discharged a firearm within his apartment here in the city of Phoenix. He then, like most good guys would do, called the police on himself. Once the police arrived, he answered all of their questions politely and honestly and was absolutely stunned when they then put him in handcuffs and took him down and booked him for a felony because several of the things that he admitted to completely honestly and unknowingly were actually illegal. He didn't know that. As you've all heard before, ignorance of the law is absolutely no excuse, and he's going to pay for the fact that he couldn't have shut up. As you've all undoubtedly heard before, ignorance of the law is in fact no excuse, and he's now going to pay dearly for the fact that he chose to speak instead of choosing to shut up. Too late now. Folks, if you like what you learned here today and you'd like to tune in to get some other factoids like this, please sign up for our online CCW course. Just go to azccwonline.com and enroll now. I think you'll find a lot of other useful information like what we've been talking about right now. Once again, as always, thanks for tuning in. Please feel free to like and subscribe below and stay safe.